I'm on the coast of Magnuson Park, where 75 yards behind me and about 150 feet below the surface of Lake Washington lies the perfectly intact fuselage of a crashed P-4Y bomber airplane from the 1950s, when a pilot from Naval Air Station forgot to set his flaps, crashing his plane into the lake. All 11 passengers survived. But how did Magnuson Park come to be? What was it before it was Magnuson Park? And what's the history of the surrounding area? The area on the western shore of Lake Washington was originally home to the Duwamish people of the Large Lake, before the land was signed away when many of the Pacific Northwest chiefs and a guy named Isaac Stevens signed the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855, which relocated many of the tribes to the first reservations of this area. This led to the Puget Sound War between the native tribespeople and the white settlers. What followed was the development of the land as you see it today. What's now the Union Bay Natural Area was said to be a fishing and hunting paradise to the native people. I was able to get Seattle celebrity Sonny Sixkiller, who used to play Husky football with my dad, to weigh in on that situation.
When the sea lions were such an issue out there, they couldn't get rid of them. Right? Nobody had the right to do it. The only people that had the right to do it was the Muckleshoot tribe. And they actually could come out and boom, boink them, but they chose not to. But they could have, because that was part of their treaties.
And the land here is said to be surprisingly well preserved, so it's a good example of how the land used to look. Development of the area actually started across Union Bay at Madison Park in the 1860s, when Judge John J. McGillivray cut a straight line through the forest from downtown Seattle, creating what is Madison Street today. McGillivray built the first home in Madison Park, and by 1870, Madison Park had become a thriving entertainment district, with bands playing on barges off the coast, the first baseball park in Seattle, and shoreline seating for over 1,000 people. Picnickers used to row across Union Bay and explore the wooded peninsula to the north, eventually building their own homes in the 1860s, leading to the real estate development of the area and the naming of the peninsula Laurelhurst. One of Laurelhurst's most notable settlers was King County's first sheriff, Uncle Joe Serber. He was a pile driver who was responsible for many of the train trestles in the area, as well as the building of Seattle's downtown wharf. Shortly after this, rowboats were replaced with the Laurelhurst launch, a small ferry that ran from Madison Park to Laurelhurst, where you had to catch the 11 p.m. launch to get home, or end up sleeping on the beach at Madison Park. Before the launch existed, however, McGillivray cut another trail that went north around the Union Bay, which eventually allowed the Lake Shore and Eastern Railroad Company to continue their track up north. I don't know if I made this clear in the previous video, but the Burke-Gilman Trail lies on top of what used to be the Lake Shore and Eastern Railroad. Denny, Burke, and Gilman, with the use of Chinese labor, dug the Montlake Cut through the narrow strip of land between Portage Bay and Union Bay. This eventually led to the digging of the ship canal as it is today. The digging caused Lake Washington to drop 9 feet, which at first seemed like a huge problem, but it actually made a lot of the landowners very happy because it gave them more beachfront land. Henry Esler's downtown sawmill was largely responsible for Seattle's development from a sleepy burg to a bustling town in the 1870s. But he also bought land in Laurelhurst from Uncle Joe and created the town of Yesler, where he built another sawmill that lasted about 5 years before burning down. The 1900s rolled around, and a piece of property with a rich legacy was being named. Magnuson Park was originally named Carkeek Park, as it was a gift to the public by Mr. and Mrs. Morgan J. Carkeek. But after World War I, the U.S. Navy wanted to build a base and began to buy up surrounding parcels in 1922. They eventually took the park over, relocating the name Carkeek to a park that's just up north of Ballard, where it still is today. Just before the base was deactivated in 1975, my dad and Sonny Sixkiller remembered a story on when they were playing for the Huskies, they would have to be shipped out to Magnuson Park, where they would stay as a team in the barracks here to stay out of trouble over by the campus. But of course, my dad found a vending machine that sold beers for 25 cents at the end of the hallway, and hijinks ensued.
And the biggest guy in our team, Rod Stanley, went in and jumped on the bed. It was a spring bed, right? The old military spring bed. Boom! Right on the floor. He goes, oh.
Some final touches on the historic legacy of the western shore of Lake Washington are in the 1950s, when a group of women led by Ann Heracles and King Broadcasting's founder Dorothy Smith Bullitt started the Children's Hospital, and it still stands to this very day. In the 1950s, when University Village was built, and back then there was only stores like Lamont's, Pay and Save, and there used to be a roller rink and a bowling alley on the southern corner. So that about wraps up this video. I wanted to thank everyone for the kind words for the last video I made. It really kept me feeling like my time was well spent, and I saw that a lot of people commented different neighborhoods they want me to look into, and I'm excited to start doing that. I just already had the Laurelhurst one kind of in the bank, so I wanted to finish it off. Once again, I'm Tyson Beatty with John L. Scott. I'm a real estate broker, and it's been a pleasure to inform you about the history of these neighborhoods today. We're going to keep going.